All right, so everyone's talking about how challenging the upcoming couple of years are going to be from a budget perspective, and that means you need to take control of how dollars flow out of your organization. So how do you do that? Well, it starts with the data, and specifically data on how, where, when, and with what frequency purchases are being made all across your various departments. You may or may not have a procure-to-pay platform that makes it easy to measure this type of activity, but to get you inspired, you should go check out Procurify's brand new Charter School Benchmark Report. It just came out a couple weeks ago and offers 10 procurement benchmarks from charter schools across the country, highlighting things like average PO volumes, spend per vendor, items per vendor, how long it takes to go from requisition to PO, and so on. Not only will you be intrigued to answer these same questions for your school, it might also shine a light on opportunities for cost control next year. You can go to procurify.com/resources to download a copy, or check out the episode description, and we've linked to it there as well. All right, now back to the show.
Welcome to Charter School Insider, lessons from the nation's top charter school operators, the only podcast dedicated to the behind-the-scenes business of running a successful charter school. Join us as we sit down with charter school leaders who share how they are overcoming the biggest operational hurdles facing their schools today.
Dallan, thanks for being here. I am looking forward to our conversation today. I'm looking forward to learning with you, and I'm hoping that this is one of our most tactical episodes we've ever done. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
Sweet. Well, before we dive in, because I know you, can you share a little bit about Charter Connect and the work that you all specialize in for charter schools?
Of course. So Charter Connect, we are a marketing agency that only focuses on charter schools. And we've been around since 2021. I've been working with charter schools as a freelancer since 2017, just helping them boost enrollment. And it kind of got to the point where I just said, wow, I'm helping so many charter schools. I should probably just start a company. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, we should probably hire some people and teach them how to do it. And I guess we're in year 3 or 4 now. And we now have a team of 9 great team members that are expert enrollment marketers for charter schools. And it's been a blast and a blessing.
Awesome. Well, certainly the enrollment landscape has changed quite a bit from 2017 to 2024. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about specifically what you all focus on. And I know that Charter Connect has an emphasis on Google and Facebook. So we're going to get in the weeds on this. But before we get into specifics, what are some of the common challenges you're observing as it relates to enrollment marketing strategy, specifically within the worlds of Google, paid ads, SEO, all of that jazz, and then Facebook, or I guess Meta, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I would say by far the biggest, most obvious thing that I see when I meet with charter schools nationwide is just the lack of data. And if they do have data, maybe it's skewed. And if they do have data that isn't skewed, they still don't quite understand their data. When I meet with charter school administrators, I ask, hey, what marketing techniques or mediums have you tried in the past? And, we've done mailers and billboards. We've done Google ads. We had this marketing company that we paid a bunch of money to. Great. What were your results? Oh, we don't really know. Or maybe they might say something like, we think it worked really well because we got some more students, or we're not sure if it worked because we didn't really notice a big increase. And that lack of knowing, of certainty of where did your students come from, to me is a red flag that a lot of people have accepted as, oh, yeah, that's just how it is, when it doesn't have to be that way. And we really focus on knowing your cost per enrollment. So if you do a billboard, or if you do a Facebook ad or a Google ad, how much did you spend per new student that came from that medium? That's the biggest mistake that we see, and it's the easiest thing to fix.
Got it. So lack of data or skewed data, and then thinking about actually tracking conversions is not sort of, we did all this blanket marketing and this is how many students got, but we're not really sure where they came from. What type of data should schools be tracking? Obviously, I would imagine digital marketing is much easier to get data on, but like what's the low-hanging fruit? If I'm a school enrollment marketer or communications lead and I'm not tracking anything, what's like the basic data I should be looking for?
So the most basic thing that you can and are probably doing, maybe not, but most schools are, is making sure that you have Google Analytics on your website. It's a free tool. It takes 2 minutes to add a snippet of code to your website. Your web dev person probably has already done this, or if they haven't, they know how to do it. And that will tell you how many people are visiting your website, Where did they come from? What are they doing? How long are they staying there? Are they clicking your apply now button, or are they not clicking that button? Are they starting your enrollment form? Are they not? So that's the first thing, is just get Google Analytics on your website. And if you already have it, add a filter to exclude your employees. So you can do something really easy right now as you're listening to this podcast, unless you're driving. Just type in, what is my IP, when you're in your office or at home? And then just take your IP address and say, hey, web dev person, filter out all of the IP addresses of our employees so that we have two views. We have one view with all of our data and one view that's excluding the IP address of our campuses, so that you can just have a better idea of how many people are visiting your website, where they're coming from, and your employees that visit your website frequently aren't skewing that data.
Got it. Okay. So just to recap, if I don't know where to start, get Google Analytics, filter employee IP addresses, because that's traffic from our own team. And hopefully that's a light lift place to start gathering buckets of data. You mentioned, poor conversion tracking and not knowing this idea of cost per enrollment. Could you explain cost per enrollment? Like, is that a formula, a commonly known formula? Does every school kind of have their own, back of the napkin math? Could you just flesh that out a little bit more for us?
Of course. And just so you know, marketing is sometimes, most of the time by marketers, we overcomplicate it when it's just so simple. Our cost per enrollment is, hey, we spent $1,000 on Facebook ads this month. And using our Google Analytics, we can track that we sent 100 people to the website. And out of those 100 people, one person filled out their application, and then they went on to actually enroll and show up on the first day of school. Your cost per enrollment is $1,000. So you spent $1,000 for that one student. If you spend $1,000 on Google ads, 100 people went to your website to enrolled, then your cost per enrollment is $500. And so there are some things that you would need to do to configure your Google Analytics to track that far down your enrollment funnel, especially if you have like manual steps where parents need to show up to the front office and fill out a form, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, every school can and should track their cost per enrollment and have that number at the top of their mind. If someone says, hey, what's your cost per enrollment? You should know, like, oh, $750, $200, $1,000. It should be that simple and obvious of a metric.
If I'm understanding correctly, the critical components here are not just sort of the top of funnel, here's the ads we did, or the emails we sent, but it's actually tracking that one lead all the way through your website, to your application form, to them if they need to bring in a form, to that student actually matriculating in the fall, and not just we spent $1,000, we got 100 clicks, and then we don't really know what happened after that.
Exactly.
Because I would imagine that's one of the challenges, is drawing the line from student actually matriculated in the fall back to how they first found your brand. How does a school think about that how have you seen schools, I guess is the better question, track online applications down towards actual students who enrolled in the fall? Is that just like comparing your lead sheet to your students come August? How are schools doing that to calculate cost per enrollment?
So if you're using like a Schoolment or a Power School, or if you just have a Wix website or a WordPress website, if you're doing manual stuff and people are filling out these manual PDFs and you have a registrar that's going through that, then yeah, it will be manual. If you have anything online and it's an online process, you can 100% from the very beginning, from when a parent sees your Facebook ad, then visits your website, then goes to Schoolment or Power School or Infinite Campus, you should be able to follow them all the way until they reach that enrolled status and be able to attribute that success to that Facebook ad, as long as you have everything set up correctly. And it sounds kind of hard and confusing. It really isn't. It's just a matter of making sure that you have Google Analytics on your website and that you're just adding a tag to that applicant as they move through your process, which maybe in the show notes, I can include something that will kind of walk an administrator through that process.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll link to that in the notes. All right. So the goal here is obviously a strong enrollment pipeline. Everyone's talking about enrollment. We've done a number of different episodes about enrollment strategy. Since you all specialize in Google and Facebook, how do you feel like Google and Facebook specifically play into this equation? Because you've alluded to, there's obviously lots of other ways people are doing marketing, billboards, flyers, out in the community, at the grocery store. Specifically as it relates to Google and Facebook, do you feel like What role should they play in a marketing strategy, just from your perspective, having worked with schools on this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Facebook, we say is more brand awareness. It's cost per impression. So you are going to pay Facebook, X amount of cents each time that your ad is shown. And whether people click on it or like it or engage with your content, you're going to pay Facebook for showing your content. So that's kind of brand awareness. And plus, people aren't looking for a charter school when they're on Facebook or Instagram. So they're just going to scroll and they'll see you and they might engage with you. They probably won't because they are there for entertainment, not necessarily to find a charter school for their student. But it is great for brand awareness. And also, it's really good for events. When your school has events like band concert or a summer block party or anything that's kind of fun where you want the community to know about it, you need to create a Facebook event. Because as people click interested in going, it might say, hey, Dallan Wortham is interested in the summer block party at this school. And then all of my friends will see on their newsfeed, oh, Dallan's interested in this event. That seems like a cool event. And it tends to snowball. So whatever your events are for the year, make sure that those events exist on Facebook, even if you're not running any advertising. So make sure to create that event on Facebook. And Google, Facebook is brand awareness. Google is more geared towards people that are looking for a charter school. So I'm a parent. I just moved into the area. I type in charter school in Denver, Colorado, because maybe I just moved from another school or from another state where my student went to a charter school. So I'm looking for another charter school in the area. They type that in, they see the results, they click on you. They are much more warm. They're in the hunt. And so it's much more enrollment driven rather than brand awareness. So if you're looking for brand awareness, Facebook's a great place to start. And especially like if you're a school that's very unique, like a VR based charter school, people probably aren't going to type in VR charter school into Google. So it's a great place to show who you are because people aren't going to find you on Google. They're not going to search for you. But Facebook, you can kind of get in front of them and capture their interest. Google is, hey, people are looking for us. We want to be there when they look for us. It's more enrollment focused.
All right, so let's spend a little more time on each of these. Let's go in reverse order. I want to ask more about Google because I am by no means a marketing expert here. So is SEO worth it in such a crowded market? Like ahead of this episode, I Googled schools near me, and there wasn't even a single school on the first page of Google. It was like all these aggregators or niche.com ranking schools, or it was the local university. So if I'm a charter school that's single site with a few hundred students and I'm trying to compete, is it even worth trying to play the SEO game? And maybe you could start by just quickly explaining what SEO is and then answer the kind of how do you play that game and is it worth it?
Yeah, so SEO, search engine optimization. So when people go to a search engine like Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo and they search for anything, a dentist nearby, a search engine's job is to answer your question and put you in contact with people that you're searching for to be useful. And so this is a really awesome question that really excites me. So hopefully I don't ramble. I'm going to try to keep this brief because it excites me. It is definitely something that every school should be doing if you're doing it the right way. A lot of marketing agencies or charter school administrators will say, okay, how do we get to be number one in Google? And that's the wrong question to be asking. Because like you just said, Daniel, it's a crowded market. Let's say you are a charter school in Washington, D.C., where there's just tons of charter schools in the area, and they're all fighting over the same students. And you are a brand new charter school. Google has no idea who you are. You just started your website, or maybe you're just a couple years old. And it's going to be very hard to get to page one in Google. You're going to have to spend a lot of time and money. And even after all that time and money, it might not be worth it. So I would invite everyone listening to this to kind of approach SEO from a different point of view. Instead of trying to be one of thousands fighting for scraps and trying to get to page one of Google, try to be search worthy. So if I am ABC charter school, instead of trying to win charter school in Washington, D.C., I'm going to try to do things in my community where people will then want to search for ABC charter school. Instead of increasing your rankings, try increasing your search volume because you are the only you. So it's a lot easier to rank for you because there's no competition. So try to do things externally outside of the search engine instead of just trying to trick Google to put you first on top of everyone else. Try to do things that are search worthy. Your robotics team, if they just won a really cool competition, reach out to the local city newspaper. Make sure that they do a story on you, and then people are going to search for you, or they'll link to you. That newspaper will. And so try to be you and extraordinary rather than just fighting for keywords like charter school near me. But that doesn't mean that you also shouldn't follow Google best practices. We'll hopefully get into that in just a little bit. But the next thing I would counsel is to go for long tail keywords. That sounds kind of confusing. Like, what's a long tail keyword?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So a short tail keyword is charter school, Austin, Texas. A long tail keyword is STEM high school or STEM charter high school, Austin, Texas. So it's just more words. And so because it's a more specific search, there's going to be less competition and a better chance of winning. And I would rather be ranked number 1 for STEM charter high school in Austin, Texas than charter school, Texas, and be on page 10. And so say, okay, what makes me me? And then what keywords would people type in if they're looking for specifically me? Because that is a competition I can win, and it's going to send traffic to my website.
Interesting. Okay. So just to summarize that, there's a combination of things that schools can do. One is try and do things that are noteworthy and then shout them out to the community. So there's articles written about you, you're doing interviews, other people are talking about you so that your actual school is being searched for, and then focusing on the niche that you own as opposed to I'm going to beat out every other school in the search for, local K-12 school near me. So that's good advice on the SEO front. What about options for paid ads in Google? I mean, now you've got an AI answer, and then you've got 3 or 4 paid links, and then you finally get to the organic links in Google. What are you all seeing as it relates to paid ads and how schools are using paid search to drive enrollments in Google?
Yeah, so that's a great question. If anyone goes onto Google right now and types in anything, you're probably going to get an AI response first. And then you'll get some ads. And then you might get a map pack if you're looking for like a restaurant or a dentist or a school. And then you'll get just a list of other results. And then at the very end, you'll get some more ads right before you move on to the next page in Google. So I would use the same advice that I gave with the long tail keywords with Google. So with Google, it's pay per click. That's why they say CPC, cost per click, or pay per click marketing. So let's just do some easy math. If the keyword charter school, Denver, Colorado, costs $5 per click, and I get 100 clicks, I spent $500 to get 100 people to my website. And maybe it took me a couple of days to spend that $500 to get those 100 people to my website. But if I'm maybe a performing arts charter school in Denver, maybe the keyword performing arts school or high school, Denver, Colorado, only costs $1. So I spent $100 to get 100 people to my website. Yeah, maybe it took a little bit longer. Maybe it took me a month to spend that $100 because that's not as common of a search, but it's going to get me the same amount of people to my website for less money. And so that will in turn lower your cost per enrollment because you're getting more people to your website while spending less.
So in general, the more specific the words that you're keying off of, the cheaper it is, or just the longer it might take because there's less searches for that, or both?
Both, yeah. I'm not saying to avoid like charter school, Denver, Colorado. If you've done the math and you say, hey, it's $5 per click, spend $500, but 5 of those 100 people are converting because our school's awesome, we have great reviews, our website's beautiful.
Right.
You just got 5 students for $500. Your cost per enrollment is $100. I'd pay $100 for a new student any day.
Got it.
And so I'm not saying to avoid those keywords, but if you realize that Google Ads isn't being very profitable for you and it's not working out, you might want to just try longer tail keywords.
Okay, cool. So to me, the obvious next question is, what should I be spending to test ads? So let's go back to that example of maybe you're a new school and you're just getting started. You need to fill up your enrollment pipeline for your first year. Should schools be spending $100 a month, $10,000 a month, $100,000 a year? I don't know. You tell me, and I know it probably comes back to cost per enrollment, but what are some of the averages that you all see across the clients that you support?
On this podcast, Vanessa Segovia, Barry from Mariposa, gives a really good explanation about how to set a budget. And Mariposa is awesome. People should definitely check out Mariposa Consulting Group. They're great marketers with tons of experience. But what I would maybe add to what she said already, to pretty much say, great, we need 20 students in kindergarten or in our middle school. And then you can pretty much say, how much do we need to spend to get those 20 kindergartners or middle schoolers from Google Ads alone? Our average cost per enrollment across our 60 schools that we work with nationwide is anywhere between $250 and $500. So for the sake of just easy math, let's just do 500. If you need 10 students, 10 times 500 is 5,000. So your marketing budget should be 5,000. So you should take how many students you want from digital marketing alone, times that by 500, and that's your budget. But it does depend. For example, if you're a virtual charter school, we have virtual charter schools that spend $150,000 a month on Google Ads because they can cover the whole state and they can take on way more students, and they're not limited to 22 students in a classroom, for example. And so they can spend just a ton. And if their cost per enrollment is in the green, let's scale this thing. Let's spend $150,000, $200,000 a month. Why not? If you're a smaller school and you're limited by space and you can't really go to another campus and you're kind of landlocked, then your strategy is going to be different. You're going to say, great, we're only missing maybe 3 students, 3 times 500, $1,500. Maybe that's our budget for the year,
right?
Instead of $150,000 per month. So it just kind of depends on what your needs are and what your ability is to house the influx of new students.
And where does the per pupil revenue come into play? Because you mentioned, obviously a school wants to make sure that they're in the green. They obviously don't want to lose money burning cash on ads in an attempt to ensure they hit their enrollment numbers. How do you all think about, per pupil revenues, which vary greatly by state, versus this range you just talked about of maybe $250 to $500?
Yeah, it all depends. And charter school administrators know better than us, especially for their state and for their school. And they also know what their budget looks like, if they have any debt or if they are looking to save for a new campus. So what might be in the green for one school isn't in the green for another school. But I would just make sure to focus. I think the biggest mistake that charter school administrators make, and Vanessa spoke about this in her episode, is instead of saying, we have $5,000 and need 50 students, how can we turn these 5 loaves and fishes into, those 50 students that we need? It's better to approach it from, okay, this is how much we need. How much do we need to spend for these students? Can we afford it? Great. If not, this probably isn't the right medium for us to use, instead of spending that $5,000 and knowing that we're not going to get the numbers that we need.
Okay, got it. So that's a helpful framework. So let's shift gears now to talk about Facebook/Meta. You mentioned earlier that you feel social or Facebook in particular is more of a brand awareness play, and people may not be actively searching for their school on social. What type of money are you seeing schools spend here as it relates to, I think you said impressions is sort of the key metric.
Yeah.
How do you think about this as a channel to use, paid marketing dollars?
This is just a general number that changes based on the school. But typically, if we say between Facebook and Google, 70% of your budget should go to Google and 30% should go to Facebook. That's typically how we do things and how we've seen the most success, because Facebook will just eat a budget. If you just say, hey, I want to spend X amount, it'll do it. It'll eat that budget for you. Google, it will only charge you when someone clicks on your ad. And so we don't want to shy away from the benefits of brand awareness that Facebook and Instagram bring. But that's why we dedicate, 30% of our ad spend budget to it. But to me, Facebook and ad spend is keep you top of mind, get your school out into the community. Because how many times have I been in with a school administrator where they've said, we've been at this location for 20 years and nobody knows we're here. And so Facebook is a great way to fix that. But Google is going to be the more profitable source of enrollments most of the time.
And what kind of ads have you all noticed work on Facebook? Have you all A/B tested that at all, or what seems to work? I know most of it, as you mentioned, you're measuring or paying by impressions, but obviously some of those people click and convert. Do you have any recommendations or observations on what seems to work well on the social platforms or Facebook specifically?
Before I answer that question, just know that Facebook is one of those platforms where it will prove you wrong every time almost, where I'll say, hey, I think this ad is going to do better than this one. I'm the marketer. I've been doing this for 7-8 years. I know what I'm doing. And then the one that I thought was going to do well stinks. And the other one that I thought was going to tank is doing way better than the one I thought was going to do well. So the answer to the question is A/B test, because each market, each school, each community is going to be different. So don't take my word for it. But what I've generally seen is that Facebook events do the best. So if you have an event and then run advertising to promote that event, that will snowball and will get people into your school. And every charter school administrator that I've spoken with, they say, hey, if you can get a student into my school, they'll convert, they'll enroll. Our enrollment rate after a tour is 90%. And so Facebook events are a great way to get students into your door where you can then make sure that they enroll. So that's what I believe is the best. After that, I wouldn't spend a lot of money on these beautiful videos that were $5,000, $10,000 to make. I would focus on parent testimonials. So reach out to your parents and then just have a photo of students along with yellow 5 stars, the parent testimonial, and their name. Patricia G. Those will typically do the best.
Right.
But like I said, I'm always proven wrong. So A/B test.
Got it. Okay. A/B test. So we've got 70-30 Google, Facebook, A/B test on Facebook. You might be proven wrong and think about events as a lever to pull.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to bring us to a close here. What recommended resources do you have for schools that might be listening who are just getting started on this journey? We've alluded to a couple different things, but I'm guessing there's additional tools or marketing resources that you and your team use. Anything that's maybe free or doesn't cost that much that a school could also take advantage of?
Yeah. So I would have them do these 3 exercises. The first thing is go to your homepage of your website and then scroll up to the tabs in your browser where you have those different tabs. And once you're on your homepage of your website, hover over the tab. Once you hover over your tab in the browser, a box will show up. That is called your title tag. Most charter schools that we meet with, they don't have important keywords in there. It typically will say ABC School homepage, something like that. And it should say ABC Charter School in Seattle, Washington, K through 12 or STEM, or make sure that your keywords are in the title tag. Because if you do a Google search for charter school near me, and you'll notice like your competition, and we don't like to say competition because they're great schools serving students, but other schools that are on top of you, you'll notice that they will have keywords on their link that'll say so-and-so school, charter school in Seattle, Washington. And if you're not appearing on that first page of Google, it's probably because your title tag doesn't include charter school or your city and state. So that's the first thing. The next thing I would suggest is just in Google typing in page speed insights. And we'll hopefully add a link in the show notes where you can just go, you can put in your website. It's a free tool by Google, and it will tell you how mobile friendly your website is and how fast it is. And if you are in the red and your website is a little slow, work with your web team to get that at least into the yellow. By doing so, more people will be able to find you. You'll be shown more often in Google. You'll get a few more students that way. So update your title tag to include your name, charter school, city, state. Go to Page Speed Insights to check out how mobile friendly and fast your website is. And the last thing is the book, This is Marketing by Seth Godin. It's not, the world's greatest book on marketing. It's not like our Bible or anything like that, but it is a great book that anyone can consume, whether they're a marketer or not, that will hopefully change the way that you approach your marketing efforts at a school.
All right. Love it. We'll link to all of those in the show notes. Any other sort of final recommendations or things that you feel like schools should know about before we close?
Know your cost per enrollment. So next time you meet with your board meeting or have a board meeting and meet with your board, just know that your cost per enrollment can be known. Reach out to your marketing team, your web developer, your marketing agency, and say, what is our cost per enrollment? And if they don't know, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Just say, great, how can we figure that out? And once you know that number, you can then know what marketing is working, what is not working, and then make adjustments accordingly.
All right. Well, Dallan, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your expertise on Google and Facebook and some of the different things schools can be thinking about. We'll link to all these various resources in the show notes. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out. And Dallan, people can find you and your team where?
Yeah, so you can visit charterconnect.co, so charterconnect.co, and sign up for our newsletter, read our blog, learn a little bit more about our team. We also have a podcast that Daniel is on, is one of my favorite episodes. So yeah, you can check us out there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Dallan, for coming on. And we will wrap there.
All right. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks for listening to Charter School Insider. This show is brought to you by BuyQ, the group purchasing organization specifically for charter schools. Want to learn how to maximize your school's purchasing power? Join together with thousands of other charter schools by visiting buyq.org/sign up. BuyQ's purchasing program is free and has no obligations or commitments required. If you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor and subscribe on your podcast listening platform of choice. If you have a question or feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at podcast@buyq.org. Thanks, and we hope you'll tune in for the next one.